thanks again, folks, for joining our third live moving industry roundtable. My name is Travis Wingate. I'm the Vice President of Marketing here at Supermove. So have the joy and privilege of working with Heidi every single day. And so she will be hosting today, but a couple of things before we get going. As many of you know, we recently launched and conducted a State of the Nation survey. So I want you all to stay tuned for that. That will be coming out in a few weeks, really where we surveyed a lot of folks within the industry to understand what their outlook for 2023 is, how they're thinking about growing their business, amongst other things. But one of the topics that came up was really, and it's probably the biggest concern a lot of moving companies have right now, is on talent and retaining and hiring top talent, specifically, folks to work in the operations of your moving business on a day-to-day basis. And that's essentially why we are here today. One thing I do want to call out, there is a Q&A section of your Zoom that you should see. So feel free, please, to drop questions in as we go. And we will try to get those questions answered in real time by our panelists. If we are not able to, don't worry though, we will be sure to follow up with the answers. This will be recorded, as I mentioned. It will be sent out, so you will be able to watch it again and again if you so choose to do so. So without further ado, today we are joined by Winston Davis, owner of MoveUp Consulting, Eric Wirks, who is the owner of Wirks Moving, and Paul Woodruff, who is the owner of Brothers Moving. And as mentioned, we will be talking about all things talent today. So with that, I am going to turn it over to our very own Heidi Liou, who you all probably know, love just as much as we do, who will moderate today's conversation. So Heidi, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Travis. And thanks everyone for joining. We're really excited to have you all here to talk about talent, top of mind for everyone. I'm pleased to introduce an incredible lineup of some of the most experienced leaders in the moving industry. First, we have Winston Davis, owner of MoveUp Consulting. Winston is a business consultant who specializes in the moving industry and connects business professionals to top careers in the sector. So far, MoveUp Consulting has been working with over 50 moving companies across the country to help them get more job candidates, find better quality workers, and improve company culture in the industry. Next up, we have Eric Wirks, owner of Wirks Moving in Atlanta, Georgia. He started in the moving industry 17 years ago as a mover and gained most of his expertise working at one of the largest privately owned van lines in the world. He lost everything in 2008 when the economy crashed, but he then took a leap of faith and started Wirks Moving with only one truck. I got to learn a lot about Eric's story, so hopefully he'll elaborate more. They now have one of the largest moving and storage companies in the greater Atlanta area, which I'm sure he's proud of his journey to get there. And last but not least, we have Paul Woodruff, owner of Brothers Moving, joining us from Odessa, Texas. They started as a grassroots moving company and has grown to a full service relocations provider. They've recently become a national van lines agent and are quickly expanding their presence across the Lone Star State. So we're here today to share tried and tested strategies for recruiting, hiring, and retaining movers so our audience can grow their businesses. And as a bonus for everyone who's tuning in, today will be eligible to win a 2-month free trial of MoveUp Consulting's hiring system, plus access to 2 months of their moving mastermind workshops. So keep an eye on your emails next week. With that, I'm excited to hear from all of you and talk about talent. Let's start off by chatting and learning about how each of you got into the moving industry in the first place. Winston, would you want to kick us off?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Heidi. And this is great. Really appreciate Supermove putting this on. I've done these before. They're a lot of work. So hopefully everybody that's watching appreciates, because it's not just doing a Zoom meeting and inviting a bunch of people. There's a ton of stuff to it. So thank you guys. Yeah. I got started in the moving business in 2017. I was finishing up college here in Winchester, Virginia, and actually applied on Indeed to a job ad that said truck captain. I didn't know what the heck it was, but it said captain, and I did athletics. I ran track in college for 4 years. So naturally I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. So ended up being for a college hauling junk and moving franchise up here in Virginia. I went in a suit and tie and interviewed, and the franchise owner was like, kind of looked me up and down, was like, okay, because it was for a crew lead position. And he's like, have you ever done sales before? And I was like, nope. And at the time, I was working at a fitness club at a front desk. I think I was making like $7.50 an hour doing that. And so anyways, I ended up doing sales, and I was there for 3 years, moved more into a sales manager role. And then a little bit after COVID in 2020, I left there, and that's when I started MoveUp. And really, I started to do sales training with moving companies, and then quickly realized how big of a need there was for recruiting movers and drivers. And so I pivoted our business a few months in, and rest is history. 2 years later, we're here.
Yeah, I don't know very many recruiters in the industry, so love that you guys did pivot. Paul, we'll kick it off to you.
Oh gosh, where do I start? Been in this business in and out for 20 plus years now. Back 2000, I started with I was actually selling shoes at a Dillard's department store, and I knew that wasn't my end, my ending place in my life. So I used it kind of as a stepping stone. I would just talk to people and ask them what they did. And so this guy came in one day and says, yeah, I worked for a moving company. I'm in sales. I'm like, are they hiring? He's like, actually, we are. It was a huge agent with North American. So fast forwarding, got an interview that hired me. And my first year, I did great in sales. Loved it. I was on the office, industrial side. Loved the business. I did really well at it. So I was there 3 or 4 years, had an opportunity to move to West Texas and work in the oil field. I did that for like 3 years. And then, moving was just in my blood. I wanted to get back into it. So I worked for a couple of local companies, dispatch, management, sales. And then, just to be frank, I got tired of working for individuals that just didn't care about people. And they just, they just looked at you as like, just get it done and don't ask questions. And so I was like, man, I have this knowledge, and looking back now, I see where I had so much to learn, but I felt like it was like, well, I know enough. Why don't we just do something on our own? So I think this was back in 2008, 2009. We started Brothers. We ventured out rather, about as rogue and about as unlicensed and all that as you could be. We stepped out on faith, and we just had an ad on Craigslist and passed out flyers, and we seen success. And the first year we did 300,000. Second year we tripled, and we've just been going up every year. So it's been a great ride. We just started our 9th year in business. Man, we're super blessed, and we're just glad to be a part of this industry, and being a part of a group of people like y'all selves, share the knowledge, and to ultimately to contribute and see everybody grow and get better.
Thank you so much, Paul. Eric, on to you.
Yeah, Eric Wirks, owner and CEO of Wirks Moving Storage. And like Heidi said in the beginning, I started out in the industry as a $9 an hour mover. I had moved to Atlanta in 2004 from Ohio. And long story short, it was a summer job for me. And the idea was for me to finish my last year at college and transfer down to a university down here. And that never happened. I was an employee for a 2-minute truck franchise locally. And I just turned 22. And that was short-lived. I was there for about 9 months and learned very quickly there was no growth potential. But I did fall in love with the industry. and kind of like a problem that a lot of moving companies have. They don't have any growth or opportunity potential for even the lowest level of their staff. And I'm a byproduct of that. And I'm actually glad that that wasn't the case, because it led me to where I'm at today. And I learned about owner operator positions. And I went and applied for at the time, and people in the industry, especially on the van line side, will know there was a company called Grable Van Lines, and I went and worked for their Atlanta branch and got a contract. I think I was at the time, I was either the youngest or one of the youngest owner operators they ever hired in the entire system. And then after that year, because I had a background in finance, what I went to school with, so I was very good on the business side as well as the moving side. And the skill sets and the level of skills at the mover and driver level at a van line is night and day compared to like what you would call a mom and pop company. And I learned that real quickly, and my skill sets went through the roof. And I ran with that position. I became what's called, after a year, a terminal service contractor. And what that means was it's almost like an intrapreneur, to where I ran a contracting business within Grable's system. So I had like I eventually built up like 4 trucks and multiple crews. And then I got a key to the office, and here I am, like this 24-year-old kid who just has this huge big boy responsibility. And not everybody liked that. There were guys who have been there for like 20, 25 years, and here's this like hotshot kid coming in within a matter of years making waves, And it was also challenging because most of the people that I'm employing and working with are twice my age at the time, or 15 plus, 10 plus 15 years ahead of me. So I got what I like to call, I got tried up a lot, and I definitely held my own. And it was a good stepping stone and learning process into like a lot of skill sets that are very valuable to me today. And but still being young and irresponsible in some aspects, like, when the economy tanked in 2008, like I was not prepared for that. And I lost everything. I had 2 trucks repossessed from me, became like 30 some $1,000s in debt, got evicted from my condo, and went and lived in an extended stay for about 2 to 3 months, sometimes having like $20 to $30 a week to eat on, and 100% started over. And I eventually leased those trucks out that did not get repossessed because they were paid off. And I eventually repoed those, and I had these trucks. I have no money coming in beside this BS $10 an hour job I'm making. And I decided, I had like $2,000 to $3,000 saved up. And then I opened up the Wirks Moving and Storage to my company today. And so people were like, well, it was like, how did you do that? Well, it was like the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And it was rough. And I had what I call like the gift of desperation. I had no choice but to be successful. I'm either successful or I'm homeless and starving. Like those were my options. And what seemed like a very trying time in my life, like when I look back through my life, like some of the biggest trials and low spots are why I have what I have today, and the lessons learned from that. And that's kind of like 17 years all rolled into a quick 3-minute introduction.
Well, that's a great transition to, acting out of desperation. All of you guys, running these companies, you've been successful, but now it's the recession. Now there's such a big challenge of hiring movers and drivers. What is top of mind in terms of recruiting and retaining talent? Paul, do you want to start us off?
Number one, I think, with the recession, I think it's going to drive people to us. There's going to be mass layoffs if all this unfolds like they're saying it will. And I think Eric especially could probably speak to this, that we're already seeing lulls in our workloads. But I think it's going to drive talent to us just organically, because again, people are going to be laid off their current jobs. So, hey, brothers or Wirks Moving is always hiring, they say. So I'm going to go over there. My buddy works over there. So yeah, I think just we're going to see traffic organically being driven our way. So I think there's going to be a silver lining in it. And in those that can stay, they can cherry pick during this time, and we can train those people up, and teach them the right ways of doing our business. And then when it goes back up again, here we are as moving company owners, and we've got, the cream of the crop. We got crews are, trained and ready to go, trucks ready to go. And we just take off with the volume of business that is created there that comes our way. So I do see the silver lining. I'm not going to stop recruiting. I've bought into the mindset of just always be hiring. I'm always looking for good talent. So I think there's a silver lining here.
Winston, what kind of challenges are you guys facing at MoveUp when it comes to recruiting?
Well, that's all we do. So I could, like Eric said earlier, we could talk 5 hours on, broad question, but, with I'll say this, there's an economy and versus labor chart that you can look at, and they're inverted. So like if economy is going down, labor should go up. Historically, it's always done that. If economy is up, labor is going to be down, meaning it's harder, right? It's harder to hire. So over the last 2 years, it's been really a lot harder to hire. It's always been hard, I think. I mean, Eric and Paul have been doing, this industry longer than me, but there's always been the struggles, but it got really squeezed in the last 2 years. And so over the next, 2023, and then I would say also in 2024, we could see some economical hardships for sure. And so we actually have a window of opportunity to go grab up talent. Like Paul was saying, they're going to be more open-minded, right? If they just got laid off over here, and then, all those hiring signs, you're going to start seeing less and less of them because people need to make money and they're going to be pressed more for it. They're going to be a little more apt to show up for maybe some interviews. And so I think it should get a little bit better, but the bigger challenge is you've got like the demographics. Like if you look at, you've got baby boomers who are like, right at, like they're all taking retirement. And then I might mess up all the Gen whatever, but like, what is it? Gen, somebody smarter here than me. Gen X, is it X?
Yes.
That's the next class or demographic. And there's actually a smaller social population there. So there's less people that are in leadership roles. So that's a big challenge in the workplace. And then you've got like millennials, and then Gen, Z, and Gen Y, I guess, is the next one. And they just have totally different viewpoints on like work ethic, work-life balance, totally different. And so those are the things that we're combating. And that's not going to be a thing that changes in the next year. That's going to continue to be a wall that you're facing. And so companies that invest in the development of the people in their company, they're going to be the ones that win. And that's the stuff that if you're just in this business to make a quick buck, you're not doing it. And so you're going to be out the door as soon as you came in. And Eric can attest, the last 10 years have been like grow, 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 grow. Most moving companies have never had real, true hard years. And him and I just spoke about this before privately. The next couple of years, there's going to be a lot of people that go out of business in this industry because it's been so easy the last few years. But now it's going to actually get hard. So good business owners will win. And you just have to really know like where are the important places to work in your business.
So Winston, it's interesting the point you make around the different generations. And there's a question in the Q&A that I want to bring up, and maybe Eric, you can take it because you made a really interesting point. You're right. Like, here's this young guy coming in and making waves, and folks that were older than you, quite significantly older than you in some cases. And so the question is, what does talent look like in 2023 in the industry versus kind of that legacy mover that I think a lot of consumers like myself, for example, I moved back in May, maybe had this perception of what the legacy mover looks like. How is that talent different? What are they looking for that's different than perhaps talent that is part of, let's say, the Generation Y cohort? And how do you address that?
what I think I'm gathering what you're asking is it all comes down to, I don't play this millennial I don't play those games. Talent is talent, work ethic is work ethic, drive is drive, all the above. And what I think probably one of the reasons why like I experienced what I did and I handled my own just fine, and what I think like a lot of companies experience, it comes down to culture. Okay. Yeah. And culture stems from leadership. Yeah. And we are a very culture driven organization. We definitely put people over profit. And I know a lot of companies out there say, oh yeah, we're people over profit driven, but we actually put our money where our mouth is on that. Yeah. And I've had my trials and low spots with culture too. We just recently had a culture problem in my organization. And it's because I had blind spots and my leadership team had blind spots in our organization to where we had some toxicity get a little bit ahead of us and to where when we had to intervene. And when I talk about putting people over profit, like, you know, I made some substantial, and I hear people all the time say, well, now's not the time to really be letting people go and this and that. And I think that's a bunch of BS. I just think that's a bunch of excuses because like I'll put my money where my mouth is, and I let go someone very, very valuable at the time or during our company's journey, who was in a leadership role and who went in a direction they really shouldn't have been going. And then where I failed as a leader and some of my team members failed as leaders is that we did not get ahead of it when we really should have. We let it go longer than it should have went. And then the damage was done. So then I have to make the hard decision. And I was the one who made it, because I haven't, like me personally, I have not hired or fired someone in years. Okay, but I'm the one who hired the individual. I'm the one who made that decision. So I had that hard conversation. And in turn with that, like we had to let go of some drivers and foremen as well that there was no coming back from. And that put us in a position to where now we're limited on our capacity. So I made the conscious decision to start taking the losses financially on certain months in order to improve the culture, playing the long game, playing what I call the infinite game in business. And I hear a lot of owners out there talk that game, but how many people are willing to put their money where their mouth is? Because so many people are so focused on the bottom line and the here and now, and it'll come back to bite them in the long run. And because like we're very financially healthy and we run a very strong cash management system, we don't have to throw darts when we make those decisions. We can make those decisions going into with clear sound in mind, knowing that like, hey, we can run this until March or April. We can be in the services. We have the cash reserve. So it's just, that's where I was telling Heidi the other day, and like Winston, I was like, there's so many interconnected things that go on with hiring a recruiter. Like if we could talk about this for an entire day, but I don't want to get off on a tangent, but like I want to make sure that like I'll go as granular as like you all want me to. At the same time, like I'll try to be broad, but
Eric's a detailed guy.
I hope I answered your question.
No, absolutely. You absolutely did. So that's super helpful. Thank you. There's tons of questions, by the way, popping up in the Q&A, but we'll get back on track and then we'll come back to the Q&A session near the end in case there's a natural spot where I can interject them.
I want to follow up to Paul and Winston. You guys are talking about the layoffs that are happening in the current moment, but they aren't layoffs that are happening in the moving industry. They're in other industries. So are you assuming, or are you guys currently hiring from other industries? And what is that like, hiring from other industries?
Oh, all the time. You always hire from other industries. People that, I think this is something that people need to hear in this industry is like, there's folks that just are so stuck on hiring labor and drivers that have moving experience. And while that's great, and you need there's a portion of it, you definitely, it's good to have, like when you bring in new talent, because if you hire all green people, it can sometimes be a little tough, but it's more predicated on your training system and your onboarding system, to be honest. But yeah, always recruit from different industries. there's so many different like cross industries that relate so well. And at the end of the day, what are we really looking for? I know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a good person, somebody that says yes sir, no ma'am. I'm looking for someone that can look me in the eye when they shake my hand. I'm looking for someone that, you know, they decided to wear a shirt that wasn't dirty and wrinkly when they showed up to the interview. And then I'm looking for people that are willing to buy in to what we are doing. If you can get some of those ingredients, you're probably off to a really, really good start. And there's a whole methodology of like, okay, you're gonna have to run a certain amount of numbers in order to talk to enough of those people. And then you have to have some of the infrastructure with your training and onboarding and getting people started properly. So that way they don't get hired today and then they're gone tomorrow. That's another huge pitfall for a lot of people. Paul?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. I think it's a tragedy to be in this box and say, well, now's the time to just go cherry pick from moving companies and movers and moving professionals. Gosh, there is a ton of talent out there that works in the housing industry, that works in the whatever industries are out there, tons of industries. And like you said, Heidi, you know, they're going to be leaving those industries. And a lot of those people are going to be like, you know, this is an opportunity for me to get into something else maybe that I enjoy. And for those companies like us that are out there that are culture driven, like Eric said, culture driven and people driven, you know, in our interviews, I tell people like we care about our people. We do. And we go above and beyond. And those people that want to show up and like Winston said, you know, buy into what we're doing and be excited and have a decent attitude. Like just those 4 or 5 things. If you want to do that, like we will elevate you. We will support you. We'll do all we can to help you accomplish your personal dreams. And we have examples of that in our company. But yeah, shame on any moving company, in my opinion, shame on any moving company owner in this climate that's like just pigeonholed into this. I want movers only. I want moving professionals only. Man, there's some talented people that are going to become available. And man, this is the time. Like, step outside of the box and hire some of those good people.
I hear a lot about moving companies poaching from other moving companies, so that's where I'm getting my information from. But I like how positive you're thinking about being able to pull people from other industries, because I also find that there are a lot of moving companies that are talking very negatively about how it's an industry that's not glamorous, it's full of hard labor, people are turning away from the industry. But I agree with you, there are a lot of amazing aspects. What you mentioned about, you know, being able to take care of someone's family or give them the dream to, you know, run their own business, you know, be an owner operator. I think that's huge, and that could be you know, like a game changer for them.
People don't leave companies, they leave management. They leave the leadership in those companies. And you know, that's why I left the last moving company I worked for. I literally told my wife, like, this is going to be my last move. I got a cool management position. I'm gonna just stand there, and that's where I'm gonna be. I'm gonna make this work. This is what it's gonna be. And I left because of management. And so we have a really good opportunity and I like what Eric said, is like, we put our money where our mouth is. And we, you know, we here at Brothers, we identify those talented folks and those exceptions to our industry. We have a few here at Brothers. And man, we put our money where our mouth is. And that was one of the things I wrote down, just 3 points that I wanted to bring to the table today. One was culture, but also we give people an opportunity to actually give themselves a raise. We have a tier system, and we tell people that, and their minds are like, you can tell they're like, what do you mean I can give myself a raise? Well, we make it really attainable. Come in this first tier, if you can if you have these certain skill levels, skills, you can do this and it's verified, boom, you move up immediately to this rate and then on up. So we, again, not to be redundant, but we recognize that talent, and man, we reward them and we lift those people up. We have a real positive culture here.
Yeah.
We do. We support, and I'm telling people, man, you got our support. We'll come out to jobs. We'll help. We help with some of the hard moments out there in the field, so that the movers aren't out there on the flip side, and they're like, I'm just out here and I have no support. The office is already gone for the day. They won't pick up their cell phone, and I'm just out here to just figure all this out. We take a different approach, and we're here to support our people and to make them feel like they're part of something.
So it's interesting, Paul, because you commented on the culture piece again. And one of the questions that came up, I'm going to pivot back to culture really quick. And it was a question for you, Eric, around the story that you just shared about how you recently had this culture challenge creep into your organization. And the question was, is there a metric that you can put in place, or how are you getting in front of these issues now so that your direct reports, your executive team, or whomever it may be, can come to you and get an eye on this before it actually becomes a problem? Like, is there a metric, or is there a process that you put in place since this challenge?
Yeah. So when I said there were some things we were blind to, I can tell you something that is substantially simple to do, that we do kind of on a quarterly basis now, is and I don't remember what platform we use. Like I said, I don't handle any of this, but we do double blind surveys for our entire organization so that they know they can give us anonymous feedback. So it's 100% anonymous, and then you get really, and it's a series of questions. So it'll basically let leadership know what's positive, what's negative, and you're looking for patterns. And that's exactly what we did 6 months ago. And then that's when the discovery happened. They're like, hey, we have a culture problem. There's some toxicity going on. We need to get ahead of this, to where we're at today. There's something just as simple as that. And as far as what everyone else is talking about, we're a very, in Winston, we're a very data driven company. We don't like throwing darts or guessing at stuff. So every decision we make is based on reporting, as far as as far as attracting and retaining. Now our data shows us that we have the highest success rate with people who aren't from this industry. People from this industry, yeah, do we have success with them? Absolutely, but a lot of them come from bad habits. A lot of them have a lot of bad habits. A lot of them are unteachable, uncoachable, know-it-alls. And the reality is that if they're truly a rock star, they probably wouldn't be coming to you for a job. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. For short-term gain, they are good. For long-term gain, the hiring and training costs might be a little bit higher in the beginning, but the opportunity cost in the long run for the right candidate with a great attitude who's teachable, all the things, all the buttons they press that Winston's talking about from whatever industry they might come from, that will be substantially cheaper and more valuable in the long term. Not just that, but just the opportunities that we provide people. I don't know how many, for example, we give drivers guaranteed hours. Yeah. And one of the reasons that is because drivers are the most expensive people to hire, recruit, and train. We're a hybrid model because I come from the van line background. There might be some more out there, I don't know, but I'm one of the only independents that I know of that has both a owner operator, the side of our company, as well as a W-2 employee side of the company. So we run a hybrid. I know every van line does it for the most part, but as far as independent that I am, I'm one of the only ones that I know of that does. I think maybe JK does that. I don't know. There might be some more. So there's always room for advancement. We offer, we offer the typical 401k, health benefits. We run company scorecards. So all our movers and drivers are also have KPI bonus too. And we don't guess at this stuff. Like this is all, when we forecast and budget, this is all planned out. Like for example, in 2023, there's going to be about a total of $50,000 going to at different increments at different times based on the seasonality that our industry is for our movers and drivers. It's already budgeted in there.
That's right.
You know, just like with any decision we possibly make in our company, like the data is all there, you know, just when it comes to hiring and retraining, like we need to retrain somebody. Well, we have a very detailed claims report. We can see if there's recurring damages going on certain items. Oh, we're going to retrain these people. Everything's dialed in. We treat hiring and recruiting now 100% different than we did pre-COVID. Like there was no question. We treat hiring and recruiting now exactly like we do in the sales department. We market for it, we onboard it. There's a like we have what we call a customer life cycle. Well, there's an employee life cycle, and we have several different steps. Even just in the past 6 months, it looks a lot different than we did. Like I said, we're constantly learning, constantly adapting. But like it's probably become one of the most serious things possible in our organization. And then we build everything around. Like if someone wants to work in this industry, I believe in my market, you ain't going to find a better organization than my company to work for if you want to be in this industry. And there's plenty and you don't have to be a driver for the next 20 years. There's plenty of opportunity for advancement. Whether you want to go the owner operator route, we're definitely expanding and open up other locations, or you want to go the management route. I'd say like almost all of our management, not quite all, but the majority of our management came from the field at one point in time. So, yeah.
I want to lean more into the piece about being data driven, especially in order to, find and attract talent. I'm sure Winston, you want to speak about this, but
yeah,
I've never seen companies be so data driven when it comes to hiring. So, Winston, what do you suggest for companies, and how does your company kind of look at it?
So, and I love working. Eric and Paul are both longtime clients with us, and they're great owners, and so they're great people to learn from. And so, Eric, I tell people, Eric's definitely he's a detailed guy, but that's why he's got great business. Paul's a great people person, and he's also a data guy. Like, if you're not a data person, at least you need to have somebody that is a data person in the company. It doesn't necessarily have to be you, but somebody does. But anywho, yeah, as far as the recruitment part, because I think we've been talking a lot more on the retention and culture. So my big philosophy is put the statistics in your favor. You're going to have a really rough attrition rate in your hiring process. So you want to fill the top of the funnel as big as you can. So if we were going to talk in terms of let's just say we started with 100 applicants, and this is for movers and drivers. There's a mixture of who could be qualified for which position, but let's just say for the easy purposes of numbers, 100, right? Most companies do not track that funnel where it goes from we have the application or the lead, right? An applicant and a lead, same thing. Eric hit nail on the head with we start looking at recruiting the same way we look at marketing, the same way we look at sales, right? And so if you have 100, how many people are you actually going to have a phone interview with? To be honest, less than half, because 40% of them you won't ever even hear from. You could try to reach out to them, they'll never get back with you. So immediately out of your 100, you went to maybe about 30 or so people that you would say, we had a phone call, the conversation went well, and we scheduled them for an in-person interview. And then from there, out of booking 30 people to come into your office, let's say in a given 1 week or 2 week period, on a good day, you get 40 to 50% show up.
Yeah, even that seems high. Yeah.
That's a good day. If you're in above 50, you should you should go back and look at your data again, because you're probably lying. But 40 to 50% show rate on your interviews is pretty good. And so now you take that 30 people that you book for in-person interviews, and now it's down to 15. Maybe that's good. Maybe you might have 10. And then out of all those 15 people that came, realistically, you're probably not going to hire half of them, because once you heard them on a phone call, but then once you get them in person, there's stuff that you see and notice that just don't work with your culture. And so maybe half of them are potential people that you could give a hiring offer to. So that cuts it down to maybe 6 out of 100. Well, if you gave an offer to 5 or 6 people, not everybody is going to start work the next day. Not everybody's going to make it to the first week. So quite literally, you could have 100 applicants. You may get 1, maybe 2 hires that say 30 days or more. And so then what's the name of the game is, well, if I put more in the top of the funnel, I get more in the bottom of the funnel. And then you go and you track every step and you figure out, how can we get 5% better there? How can we get a little bit better here? And we could get into all the details about how do you get each layer better. But I mean, that's the name of the game. If I don't have to hire people that exclusively have moving experience, I do have some things that are prerequisites that are requirements, but like, I'm just looking for good people. So then the recruiting game for the moving industry becomes, I'm just looking for good human beings. So then let me get as many good human beings into my funnel, if that makes sense. So that's how I look at it. There's other stuff.
Quick question then on that, Winston, because one of the questions that came up in the Q&A was specific to recruiting, like for a moving company that's in a strong growth phase, how do you balance what that funnel looks like in terms of ensuring that you have a healthy pipeline of talent that you're always looking at? Like, do you continue to hire? Do you continue to interview even if you don't necessarily have any openings at the moment? Or like, how do you balance that, both from an economic standpoint, but then also making sure you don't get caught with your pants down where all of a sudden you're 2 movers short?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. So I'll make a couple comments, and then maybe Eric, you want to go right after me. I'll be short with mine. I believe you should recruit all year round. And the thing that you just change are, the offers that you give. You don't have, just because you interview somebody doesn't mean you have to give them a job offer right there. And so you should have, what you want to do is you want to keep it on all year round, but you may throttle the spending. I've been doing a lot of research and a lot of know-how in programmatic spending with recruitment. And so like as need goes higher, your biggest profit is probably going to come from you actually being able to I know Eric talks about all the time, he's like, our marketing's so good. We never can get to the capacity of what our marketing really does. And if you can get closer and closer to where your operations can actually do the business that your marketing drives, that's where a lot of your money is. It's not necessarily you need, better marketing. And so recruit all year round, and then programmatic spending, throttle your spending. And then you should have an incubator for those people you bring in, you interview, they've checked all your boxes, and you just might not be ready to hire today or tomorrow. I would just be honest with those people, but you should then have a system of kind of filing them in what I call an incubator. And then you nurture that relationship. And sure, maybe they got to go get another job, but like, you've met them, you know what type of person they are, you verified that individual. And then it's a matter of how do you grow that list? It's not growing the number of applicants you have necessarily, because those are people sometimes you've never met them or talked to them. But if they've come to your office in person, like, I know you're real, I know that you're a decent human being. I like some stuff about you. You were interested in our company, so you're just trying to grow that list. So those are some of my thoughts, just to answer that for you, Travis. But Eric, you want to?
Yeah, awesome. Thanks. Yeah, Eric, go ahead. Go for it.
Yeah, so I'll try to be so long about this. So it comes down to like the data and information. So when we budget and forecast, we have a profit goal. And then tied with that profit goal is a revenue goal, and then all the budgets in the department to make that happen. Okay. So just like it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game all based on percentages. And just like we know exactly like how to set our marketing budget for sales in order to get this many leads based on this average move revenue to achieve these goals to hit our profit, it's the same thing with like equipment resources or human resources. Like when we go in the budget, we know going into 2023, we know how many movers we need,
Yes.
to the T, how many drivers we need, how many CDL drivers we need. And we know what we can get away with based on our industry seasonality. I know I'm most likely not going to run the same revenue in first quarter as I am in second quarter and third quarter. Usually the first quarter is your latest quarter, and then your fourth quarter is the third worst quarter, and your second and third are your best quarters, third quarter being the best. So we have a blueprint and a map to know exactly what we need. And then it's a numbers game. Like Winston said, you have 100 people, 50% are going to be cut out in day one, is not going to respond, et cetera. So it's a numbers game. So you know how to allocate the marketing budget to going after and recruiting these people. Hey, based on this data set, I need this many applicants, I need to set this marketing budget towards hiring and recruiting. And it's not just that, like you develop and this is how crazy we get with it. Like you start to develop company profiles. You like everybody has data, whether it's in their head or if they're like us who have been documented for a long time, you have a general idea or you can find where are these people? Okay. Where are these people? What parts of your market are they in? What do these people look like? All kinds of different demographic variables. And we build employee profiles, and then we find out what part of our map are those people at. And then we directly geo-target those areas. Just the same thing, when we build an ideal customer, the customer that's the perfect fit for us and we market to for sales. Do you think I'm just throwing money out there in marketing, just let's just see what customers come in? No, we're very strategic about what customer base we go after, just like we're very strategic about what movers and drivers we go after. We want to get it down as small as possible. I want to spend as less money as possible to get the best bang for our dollar. And that ties with which we've gotten better with over just in 22 alone, we've gotten so much better in because one of the problems is that sometimes you keep people on too long and they cost you. It's a lot of money to hire and train somebody. There's no worse feeling than spending a bunch of money training somebody for an entire month for them to walk out the door. Yeah. We want to discover if this person's a good fit in the first couple of weeks, not 45 days later. We've already invested so much time and money. At the same time, it's the reverse. We want to make sure that we don't miss something, that we don't let a very talented person accidentally walk out the door. That's why I'm saying there's so many things interconnected to this that we constantly get better at. Like I said, we never did this pre-COVID. It was put an ad in and they just would flood in. That ain't the reality no more. Not only that, you got to pay these people better if you want real, true, good talent. You got to offer better compensation packages. You got to be creative. We offer paid time off to movers and drivers. I don't know. I'm sure there might be some, but I don't know anyone else that's offering paid time off for people at that tier. That's usually a management thing. They get paid time off. We do that. They freaking love it. The guaranteed hours thing. That's not because we offer guaranteed hours for drivers. And the reason why that is that one, we want to incentivize good movers who could become a driver to become a driver. And two, that's very attractive to people looking for a job.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. Absolutely.
So it's just being creative things like that and using the data sets. And don't get me wrong, we have not done this perfectly. We constantly learn all the time, and we definitely substantially do this way better now than we did this several years ago. Kind of like that was kind of the blessing of COVID in a way. It put you in shape. It put people. It should have put people in positions that we got to pivot. We got to pivot now, sink or swim. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Winston and other people are right. I guarantee you, man, people are in for a rude awakening. If you're not doing stuff like that, there's some of us that are, and we're gonna eat you up. Yeah. They're gonna come work for companies like me, not companies like guys who aren't doing stuff like this. Because the days of it just being so simple, those days are dead.
So one of the, it's Awesome points. And it's really cool to just hear about the culture and how you're taking care of the people, which matters tons, right? Regardless of the industry you're in. And so you also talked about something like just getting more bang for your buck. And so one of the questions that came up, and Paul, I'll put this one to you, is have you ever tried, so we're talking a lot about hiring your own talent, retaining your own talent, but have you ever tried outsourcing talent where it doesn't necessarily sit under your roof per se? And is that something that you've had success with, or is that something that you try to avoid?
Yeah, so those are
The smirks on everyone's face right now is just very telling, by the way, as I asked that question.
those of us that were here from the beginning. We started out like as simple and as just grassroots as you could. So I would ask my movers, hey, if you know any family members, anybody that needs a job, bring them, or we would put out flyers, or then we got real desperate. We would go to halfway houses. We went to employment agencies. We would go, we turned over every leaf. And this was about a year and a half ago now. We had all the potential to grow, but we just simply couldn't get enough people to show up. And so I met a great guy by the name of Winston Davis with MoveUp Consulting. And quite frankly, we started our Dallas branch 3 years ago, going on 3 years ago now. And I say it almost weekly to my management. I'm like, there's no way we could be doing what we're doing over there without MoveUp. So yes, we reached out. We exhausted all of our resources and all of our know-how, and we reached out. I just knew it was something we had to make it an expense. We had to make it part of, our monthly expense, and it was a great investment. It's been a great investment every month. And really the ROI is like off the charts for what we spend and what we get is crazy. But absolutely, it just came a time in our company to where putting out flyers and asking movers to bring their people that wasn't working, So absolutely, if you find yourself in a place, those of you that are watching, if you're in a place in your business where you need more than 3 or 4 guys to show up every day, you need 15, 20, 30 plus, 40 plus guys to show up. Reach out to MoveUp. I'm sure there's other recruiting companies, but MoveUp has worked great for.
I didn't pay Paul to say that, by the way, just so everybody knows.
It sounds like Eric has had a lot of the same results from MoveUp. But reach out, get a recruiting company to help you with that. Like Eric was saying, like the approaches of yesterday are not the approaches that work today. And you gotta think outside the box. You gotta get outside of what you were taught, the way that we've always done it, and all this other stuff, and look forward and get outside the box and do some things that are different, and you'll see success.
Hey, Travis, thanks, Paul. That was really nice. One thing that here in Virginia that we saying is even a blind hog can find an acorn every now and then. So like if you hire people that are not like actually in your company, let's say they're, you're using a staffing agency, or let's say you're hiring contractors who are just not loyal, like sure, every now and then, like you're going to hit a home run if you do it enough, sure. But I've always been a big believer that like bringing people within the company, doing things by the books the right way, like that will be the long-term formula for success.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Even in the marketing teams I've built in the past, it's like I much rather have folks in-house than using an agency when possible, because no one's going to care about it as much as you and your team do. So yeah, it's a really, really great point. Heidi, we're coming up on time.
Yeah, we still have a lot of Q&As, but we're already way past our 45-minute mark. So
sorry, I spoke too much when
we got some talkers in this group.
It's great content. So thank you, folks.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for asking the questions. I'm sorry we won't be able to hit them all. I'll just ask one last question and then I'll wrap things up. Question for, I guess,
Do like a
whoever.
roulette, do a roulette round, like
All right.
10-second
quick
answers.
Yeah, quick
Yeah.
answer for this. Oh gosh, this might not be the quickest, but do you have set training programs and additional professional development in place to develop your employees from the ground up? Paul.
Yeah, that's been a turning point for our company.
So Paul, you do have that?
We do.
Yeah, video training, or like, you plug a guy in and it's already online.
We have our way of approaching that. Yes.
Yeah, your way.
But
So
yeah,
is that Heidi, what they were asking? Like, do you have like just like a technology piece?
I mean,
it?
not specific to technology, but just do you have a training program?
In general, like an SOP. Like, do you just have a process?
Do you have a process?
so.
Yeah, training program in place.
we kind of took the old school route at first, just put them out with a good mover and let them learn, OJT or on the job training, and we were not having success with that. So, I had to back up and say, all right, we need a training program and just a system that we can put them through. And so we do that. Before we send anybody in the field, they come in, they spend time in our warehouse with our trained movers. We go through everything: padding furniture, using equipment, packing boxes, what's expected, customer service, all this stuff. So again, kind of get back to what Eric was saying, like the ways of yesterday, like this is a new era, this is a new time. The Gen Zs are very technologically driven, and we're asking them to do a very manual thing. So they even more so need training. Got to train these people.
Yeah. Eric, what about
or
you?
Supermove?
Yeah, we're running out of time. Yeah, it's very thorough. In fact, it was completely it was a lot of it was revamped and added to, and things were changed around literally a couple months ago. 3 days for a mover before they even go on a truck, and 4 days for a driver. In fact, drivers in training, they go through about a 30-day piecemeal training process, because we take safety very, very seriously. Probably why our lost runs are always perfect. But we take that super seriously. But no, I'm not a part of it, just from but I've looked at it all, and just from like what I know. So like we walk people in on day one. They introduce the heads of it. They meet the heads of every department. But on day one, it's getting them feel like a part of the culture. They meet the heads of every department. They walk through what everyone does. They learn the customer life cycle, so they can see what the journey of a customer looks like from start to finish, to kind of build that empathy. Everything's very strategic, and then like the hands-on training in the warehouse, as far as like moving basics, the videos they watch, and then we have 2 trainers on staff. One kind of handles the internal house, and one of them goes out in the truck. He's almost like a direct cost, because of course those are all moves. And then each one of them new hires will go with our specific on the job trainer. The days of throwing guys here, you're going to be on this team, mentor them, shadow them, they'll show you the ropes. Those days are done.
Yeah.
So like I said, yeah, we put a lot of time and money in that, but it pays off substantially.
Yeah.
Like I said, we take hire, recruit, and training. It's one of the most serious departments. Well, all departments are taken seriously, but like I said, like we approach this now like we've never in the past. In the past, it was easy, and now
set them up for success.
Absolutely.
I think, Heidi, I know that the time's out, but like I think the hard thing for moving company owners who like aren't doing these things is like they're probably like brain spinning, like, oh my gosh, like I need to know all this data, I need to have these systems, I don't have any of this. And it's like, what do I do first? Do I figure out all this stuff for the recruiting and talent acquisition front end? Or do I focus on the onboarding training once the guy's in my business? And I don't know, Eric and Paul might have different answers to this. I don't know if there's a right or wrong, but I think if you're doing this stuff, then that's what's right. But I almost feel like you have to really get recruiting systems down. And then you do a little bit of the onboarding and the training just as you go, but then you will have to sit down in that part of the business and just like really, like Eric said, revamp, really get detailed, because you'll figure out all the problems with your training when you get new hires coming in. But if you have no new people coming in, how are you going to know if your system's good?
I agree with Winston. Getting people through the door is number one, and then you can cut down your churn over time.
That's it.
Based on like, that's all it is. It's like, because it's going to be expensive at the beginning, because you are going to like even for us, like we have higher turnover several years ago versus what we is now, and we're still learning. You're never going to stop learning. There's always somebody out there that does it better. Or just because something works doesn't mean it can't work better. So it's always going to be things like that.
I'd be willing, and I was once this guy. I'm still learning every day, every month, every year. But there's somebody in this group that's listening today. It's like Winston's like, where do I start? What do I do? I want to be successful. Like I want to be that guy that's killing it. And I'd be willing to put together like a top 10 list of just those simple things that you can be doing to set yourself up to gain momentum and to be successful.
Yeah, break it down for us. No, thank you so much. Paul, that'd be great. I'll definitely connect with you after this. I do want to wrap things up. Thank you again for everyone for joining this roundtable. Thanks for everyone who's stayed on this long. Hiring and keeping talent continues to be a major challenge, but really glad that we can all share our tips and tactics and just keep the conversation going. And once again, this roundtable is brought to you by Supermove. We're on a mission to bring moving software in the hands of everyone, make it easy for people to look at their business in a really data-driven way. So if you're not using any moving software today, or if you're curious how we can help you level up, just sign up for a demo through our website, supermove.com, and mention that you attended this roundtable discussion with Winston, Paul, and Eric. And with that, thank you again. And you guys can keep an eye out for other events by following us on social media. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, this was great. Eric, Paul, good seeing you guys as always.
Travis, appreciate it.
Take care, guys.
See ya.
Thanks, guys.